Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, it seems as though all the leftoids, all the people who have been screaming about right-wing extremism for years, it seems like yet again they've taken another narrative L, as we're now apparently getting a document dump. We're getting a bunch of information related to Thomas Crooks, that's the initial attempted assassin of President Trump during the 2024 election, from that very weird rally at Butler, Pennsylvania, where the most obvious roof was unmanned. They let a kid with a rangefinder walk up. But anyways, freaky circumstances aside, it seems like we have a bunch of information about this character, and apparently, we now have reason to believe that he was yet again another left-wing LGBTQ furry, just like Tyler Robinson, part of a very similar online left-wing radical profile. And this, of course, comes after the last, what's it been, like a year and a half of Democrats telling us that Thomas Crooks was a Republican. It was right on right violence. Yeah, well, apparently he was just like Tyler Robinson, the Charlie Kirk shooter. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into. Take a look at this pattern. Let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So, of course, the official narrative is that nobody knew who this Thomas Matthew Crooks kid was. The FBI, Secret Service want you to believe that he came out of nowhere. He was a lone wolf. He just happened to pull the trigger and they had no idea. There's no way they could have stopped it, except it seems that's not exactly true here. Thomas Matthew Crooks was not a ghost, and they likely, in some way or form, had a file on this kid, especially considering his online behavior. I got an article here from the New York Post. Here's where I'm getting all the information. This was written by Miranda Devine. Apparently, this Crooks character was a chronically online, hyper-political nerd who left a digital mountain of red flags, and in the matter of 4 years, probably even less, he went through a full ideological 180. So this, I guess, kind of confirms that in 2020, he was a registered Republican. But between 2020 and then the 2024 shooting, he did a complete flip in terms of his ideology. We now have evidence suggesting that he went from a Trump supporter, a Trump voter, a registered Republican, to an anti-Trump radical furry, and possibly there's an LGBT motive here as well. So just like Tyler Robinson, apparently this character had a profile under the name or the username Epic Microwave or The Epic Microwave. That's on DeviantArt. He used they, them pronouns and was mostly focused on categories such as furry porn and let's call it gender-bending fetish art. And multiple outlets have now confirmed that the two accounts in question, the Epic Microwave and Epic Microwave, were linked to his primary email. And the accounts show an obsession with hyper-muscular male bodies with female heads and anthropomorphized cartoon characters. And so basically it seems like Crooks followed the exact same pipeline as the Charlie Kirk shooter Tyler Robinson, a teenage outcast, terminally online, who then gets caught up in this, let's say, extreme LGBTQ subculture, and then, of course, likely indoctrinated by all the left-wing rhetoric, matrans genocide, yada, 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 coming for our rights, taking away rights from LGBTQ people, Donald Trump's a fascist, yada yada, and some of these individuals being emotionally unstable, to say the least, then radicalized into the next shooter. And so this is obviously a problem. There's a growing trend, there's something to look at, but the mainstream media is more focused again on the incels and the MAGA extremists and the groypers. But no focus here, right? No focus to the fact that left-wing online culture or, subsects of LGBTQ left-wing culture, those online communities seem to be mass-producing political assassins. Now, of course, they'll just downplay it, pretend as if it has no impact whatsoever. They're too scared to touch it because we're talking about protected groups here. They're more focused on the Facebook boomer who wrote something mean than a literal national security threat, a literal threat, a pipeline towards domestic terrorism. It's not a coincidence, folks. This has become a trend. The left clearly has a violence and radicalism problem, and it's not just the campus protests that turn into riots or the unhinged campus moments where some blue-haired college kid engages in, let's say, varying degrees of assault on campus the moment they see a MAGA hat or a TPUSA setup. No, this is a culture that is fueling the extreme. This is a culture that is telling young, mentally unstable people, in many cases sexually frustrated and confused kids, that politics essentially is some sort of a holy war and that fascists are everywhere and we need to take them out. That cops, ICE agents, and Republicans are open targets. that their words themselves are violence and therefore justify a violent reaction. And so you've got these emotionally susceptible kids who are getting caught up in all this stuff. They're being radicalized in these subsections of the internet. And look at the results. Look at what we're seeing. Add another one to the list. The Bernie bro who shot Steve Scalise, the Antifa thug who executed a Trump supporter in Portland, the other gender-confused person who flew across the country to kill Justice Kavanaugh, Tyler Robinson, now Thomas Crooks, as well as the school mass shooters. Obviously, this is out of control. And what does the left have? They've got these warped studies that use prison crimes to make this claim of evil white supremacy across the nation, white domestic terror threat. No, this is the terror threat, this right here. The media is going to keep screaming about right-wing extremism and the data that backs it up. I don't need your bogus data, especially not when it's this freaking obvious. We've never had a MAGA shooter. It's never happened. There has never been a MAGA terrorist who's engaged in a shooter on behalf of the MAGA political agenda. It has never happened. And what happened with Tim Walz's employee obviously does not meet that definition. What happened to Nancy Pelosi's husband does not meet that definition. Meanwhile, look how many left-wing acts that we have targeting literal conservative speakers or Republican politicians. This is an epidemic of left-wing violence. The proof is in the pudding, and now you can add Thomas Crooks officially, I guess, to that list. Unless there's some sort of a deeper conspiracy here, which of course could be a different conversation for a different day if evidence one day takes us there. But anyways, that's the link, another trans, furry, LGBTQ subculture link between these two characters. I'd love to sit here and say I'm surprised or I'm shocked, but obviously I'm really not. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.